What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Bringing on Andy Staples from On3. You might have seen his work in The Athletic from 2019 to 2023. I might know him from his time with the Tampa Tribune as a former Tampa guy myself. Andy, how you doing this morning, man?
Yeah, may it rest in peace, the Tampa Tribune. 100 years of a beautiful newspapering.
Yeah, gone but never forgotten. So we're bringing on Andy. Huge game, the marquee game of this weekend, at least in my opinion, is this Notre Dame Ohio State game, top 10 matchup in South Bend. So we're going to get Andy's thoughts, folks. Before we dive into it, please do hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. Also, subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Andy Staples does a phenomenal job. You can also listen to Andy's stuff via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. So please do that. Notre Dame off to a 4-0 start this season, wins over Navy, Tennessee State, NC State, and Central Michigan. Just when you've been able to watch the Irish this season, Andy, what have you thought?
They're explosive on offense, and that's the thing that seemingly was missing from them for a long time. And I mean, Sam Hartman is the obvious difference. And we wondered, what would Sam look like behind an offensive line like Notre Dame's? Because as good as Wake Forest has been, and they always punch above their weight, they don't have NFL offensive linemen like Notre Dame does. They don't have a Joe Alt playing left tackle. And I think that makes a big difference. And plus, it's a very different offense. So we wanted to see how Sam would operate in that. And, he's a guy who's played a lot of college football at a really high level. He's played a bunch of good teams. So I think he just adds so much to a team that was already going to be able to run the ball. I mean, that line is very good. We knew the backfield was going to be deep. We weren't sure exactly who it was going to be behind Audric Estime, and it's kind of a by committee behind Estime, but everybody looks like they're capable of carrying the load if they need to, and then Estime is kind of the star of that bunch. So I've been very impressed so far because it felt like they finally found that thing that was missing. And now this puts them on a different level and puts them maybe in the echelon of Ohio State. This will be the proof of that. We'll find out on Saturday, do they really belong? And again, I mean, it's weird because I don't think this is one of those years that Notre Dame has to go 12-0 to make the playoff. I think if they split Ohio State and USC and the one they lose is close, they got a real good shot. So this is where is Notre Dame in the pecking order kind of game.
Yeah, Andy, it's interesting because in covering Notre Dame, you see a lot of the national media will call out Notre Dame's overrated. A lot of the talking heads will say that. It seems like this year, because of Sam Hartman, the national media kind of likes Notre Dame now. Have you seen that? Do you think that's interesting?
It's not interesting. I mean, they think they're looking at having a better quarterback finally. I mean, it's not really complicated. Like, they didn't have a good quarterback and now they do, but they had good everything else. So that seems to be the way you do it. And this is, potentially, I don't know if this is going to be a new model for Notre Dame or, I think Notre Dame can recruit well enough that they'll be able to have the homegrown quarterbacks coming out too, that can be explosive and do all this too. But that's really the difference, because it's not like Notre Dame has been bad. Last year was weird because I think when Tyler Buckner went down, that's probably cost them a game right there. And then trying to adjust to Drew Pine. But neither one of them was going to lead Notre Dame to a truly special season. But you saw by the end of the year, they were playing really well. It's not like Notre Dame didn't have good players everywhere else. So they did a good job of filling in the holes where they needed to. And again, I think offensive line play travels. I think that when you can build an offensive line that is as consistently good as Notre Dame has over the last 6-7 years, I think that makes a huge difference. And I think in the era of the transfer portal, when there will be graduate transfer quarterbacks and receivers and running backs who are looking around, they're making business decisions. And when you have an offensive line like Notre Dame's, that makes the business decision easier for all of those people.
So, Andy, thoughts on Ohio State, their quarterback situation, between McCord and Brown's interesting. What have you made of the Buckeyes so far this year?
So they haven't really played anybody yet, but it feels like they've sort of unleashed Kyle McCord of late and really let him just sort of read the whole field, use the whole offense. Because I think early it felt like they were saying, no, you throw here. And if you can't throw here, well, we'll figure. The Indiana game was kind of shaky. But he looks a lot more loose now. They've named him the QB1, which it took them a while to do that. But clearly they were headed that way the whole time. And I think when you have Martin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Buka, it really it helps. I mean, it just makes everything easier. But they also have a stacked backfield. I mean, that's one thing that with Marvin Harrison being such a big star, people forget that Ohio State really has a bunch of good backs. The question marks for Ohio State is after they lost some very good linemen to the draft, how would that group improve? And that's one that it took some criticism in the first couple of weeks, and got a little praise after the Western Kentucky game. But we will see. This will be the best defense they've played. This will be the best group of athletes they've played. Can they hold up? Because if Notre Dame is stuffing them at the line of scrimmage or getting pressure on Kyle McCord, it changes the dynamics of this game quite a bit. Because last year it was going to be a rock fight, and Ohio State was fine with getting into a rock fight with Notre Dame because ultimately they were going to outscore Notre Dame. This time, that's not so certain. Like, you got to be careful because Notre Dame can hand off to Estime a couple of times, then pop a little play action, and then boom, you're dealing with a deficit. And I think it's for Ohio State, it probably will feel a lot like playing Michigan felt last year, where they're going to run it at you, but they have this quarterback who, when they need him to, can chuck it way down the field, and they have some receivers that can make some plays. And that's, you look back at the Ohio State Michigan game last year, Michigan was not running the ball very well, but they were not giving up on it. And they hit those 2 Cornelius Johnson plays, and it allowed them to stay in the game long enough to just wear Ohio State out up front. I wouldn't be shocked if Notre Dame tries something similar where they're just trying to wear Ohio State out, and maybe it's not looking so great for a half, but by the middle of the third quarter, all of a sudden those runs start to pop.
Of course, from a Notre Dame perspective, you hope that the game ends up Michigan beating Ohio State. I'm curious for your thoughts on this, Andy, because when you look at the top of college football, it just seems like this is an opportunity for Notre Dame with the quarterback, right, that they haven't had in so long, to go win a title. Like you mentioned earlier, this team could go one loss. And as long as that loss is not an embarrassing loss, you still can make that 4-team college football playoff, because the schedule is pretty tough this year, right?
Yes.
Clemson might seem down. That's still a huge game on the road. You go at Duke. I mean, it's a pretty tough schedule.
At Duke is looking like a trap game, because you put all your energy and everything into this Ohio State game, and then you got to go to Duke. Like Mike Elko, and Notre Dame people know Mike Elko. They know he's a great coach. They are going to be ready, and Riley Leonard is an NFL quarterback. So that's the thing. It is a harder schedule than people realize, and if they can get through it, it does mean they are one of the best teams in the country. So you're right. It just, this game, the USC game, you can probably split them as long as the loss is close. But I know Notre Dame doesn't want to do that. And if you win them both, then I think you have a cushion where you could lose another one down the stretch, and probably it's forgiven because you'd have 2 of the best wins in the whole country.
Helps Notre Dame definitely that Ohio State and USC both at home, but then of course Clemson and Duke on the road. So in terms of a prediction for the game, Andy, before we started recording, you were like, I could see this playing out either way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts as of Tuesday morning on that?
So right now, watching Ohio State's defense so far, again, they haven't really played anybody yet. But like last week, they were playing Western Kentucky, which is a very good passing team. Austin Reed's a very good quarterback. They have at least one NFL receiver, and Ohio State made them look bad. And that's impressive because that's a defense that was giving up way too many big plays the last 2 years. And it feels like they've maybe corrected for that. I really like their secondary this year. So I lean toward Ohio State in this game. But, man, I don't know. Those green wristbands and Sam Hartman, and it's hard. You tell me, This is the most anticipated Notre Dame home game since.
I mean, we've
That's
had this discussion. I was like, I mean, the Georgia in what 2017, that was pretty huge, but USC is always big every 2005
the
USC, but otherwise, like,
2005 USC would have been one of those. The Georgia game in 2017, it was a little different because I don't think people were expecting that much from either Georgia or Notre Dame at the time.
sure,
Georgia ends up playing for the national title that year,
sure,
but they were coming off, 7-6 in Kirby Smart's first season. So, yeah, I think this is probably since the Bush Push game,
yeah,
which is incredible when you think about it, because Notre Dame has been to a national title game since then. They've played twice in the playoffs since then, but it's so exciting because it felt like Notre Dame was just right there in terms of recruiting. They're finally getting deep enough to really play with these teams at multiple positions. But the quarterback thing was not the thing that, like, Ian Book was good.
right,
And I think Ian Book was probably underrated as a college football quarterback, but he still probably wasn't the guy who was going to take you to the next level. I don't know if Sam is, but we're going to find out this weekend probably if he is or not.
yeah. So, yeah, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on this video. Of course, subscribe to our channel for more content. We will have more throughout the week on our YouTube channel and blueandgold.com website to preview this matchup. And please do subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel as well, so you can catch more of Andy Staples' content. We've had JD Pickell on our YouTube channel. JD does a fantastic job. So check out those guys on our On3 YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up, of course, if you're not done so yet. And as always, we will catch you guys next time.